Episode 116 of 5 Drinks Through Midnight. In the show, we bring the questions, guests bring the drinks. We try to wrap up before midnight. Today, we are talking to Brian Luftman, co-founder of Never to Say Die Spirits. But before we do, like and subscribe, hit the bells, the whistles. You know what to do. Leave a comment. Really help us push this in the algorithm. Let's get started. Brian, thank you so much for joining us. It's 5 Drinks Through Midnight, 5 drinks, 5 questions. Thanks so much for joining us. How are you doing today?
Thanks, Tim. Doing great. I'm ready to have some cocktails with you.
Excellent. Me too. I guess even before first we even get started, huge congratulations to being named Best Whiskey in the World by Forbes for 2023. So, cheers to that. That's amazing. So, again.
Thanks. I don't. That's up to other people to decide, I guess. I can't believe that would ever be called, Never Said I would be called that. We just set out to make a good whiskey and people love it. So that's fantastic. Yeah. Even if one person on the planet thinks it's the best.
It's the best. Yeah. Again, love what's in your glass. But I mean, again, Forbes, that's pretty fucking high. That's a high statement. So I guess let's start drinking some world-class whiskey. So what are we drinking first?
I was going to let you lead the charge. I mean, we could start with just our regular flagship small batch. What number bottle do you have there, Tim? There's a red number on the bottom. I think I gave you one of the early few thousands.
774.
Sweet. So you got one of the first 1,000 bottles in America.
All right. Awesome.
I treated you great. See, I got like number 3,000 here, so you got preferential treatment.
Fuck yeah, I'm way better.
Heck yeah. So I also sent you. So we're going to kind of cheat. We got 2 drinks in our first drink, so I cheated. So it's really six drinks till midnight. But so the other one that I sent you is a sample that we pulled from the barrels before our barrels were shipped over to England. So what you're about to drink in that bottle actually went in the barrel over to England and aged in England for a year. Okay. So the other small sample bottle I gave you, which is the unocean aged BAM, was pulled before that. So you get to do it side by side and see if the ocean aging and the extra year in England made a difference.
All right. Just, I mean, starting off, like for the people that aren't familiar back home, like what is Never Say Die and how'd you guys come about?
Well, I mean, do you want me to tell the whole story now or do you want me to wait till question 1? Because I can give you a really quick answer. Like we're the very first whiskey to ever be taken in the barrel across the ocean, aged in another country, bottled there. So we're the first in the world to do that. First bourbon, I should say. So that's enough of an intrigue right there, but I'll explain why with the story on why the hell we would do that. Cool. You know what I mean?
Well,
we'll
save that for question 2. So yeah, we'll because that's my question 2.
Yeah.
Oh, this is nice.
This is I'll tell you a little about the whiskey before I tell you the story. So this was distilled in Danville, Kentucky. It's a proprietary mash bill we came up with. 2 of my partners own that distillery. So we did make our own barrels originally. You're drinking 2017 juice. So it is 6.5 years old. And it was in our own barrels. And it's 75% corn, 21% rye, 4% malted barley. A lot of people. Do you want me to give you some tasting notes that I've heard over the years, or do you want to give me your own?
No, please. Yeah. I mean, we just interviewed Ebony Major, and she's got me a little gun shy about tasting notes because I was like, "Oh, I taste this," and she was like, "No, you don't." And I was like, "Oh, cool." So from now on, like,
I'm with you. Like people smell stuff in our whiskey that I'm like, "Where the heck did you get that?" But then I smell it, and I'm like, "Okay, I get that."
Yep. No. Yeah. Like, being a little subjective, so I'll let you lead the charge on that one.
Yeah, so on the nose, a whole lot of people, and this is just from what I've gathered from everybody else who's tried it, is a lot of fruit, pear and citrus are very foremost on the nose, and it's got a creamy kind of smell to it. It's not super oaky at all from what I've ever tasted.
Yeah.
In fact, very few people ever say much oak, which is hard to believe because it's sat in oak for 6.5 years. And Our blender over in England is incredible. Every of the several blends I've had, they're all very similar, but all awesome. They capture all those notes that are also unique in all the different barrels. So this should come out like a phenomenally smooth small batch blend. And every time I've tried it, it is. It's like it's got a good kick from a rye. I mean, there's some good natural spice there, and a whole lot of caramel, leather, butterscotch, and coffee,
which is damn nice. That is just really But no, this is just honestly, like, again, I make this joke a lot of times with people, but like, I can lie to you, but this doesn't lie, and this is really fucking good. So my face, it's a happy face. So this is really, really fucking good.
I guess the closest, some people have said that they, and this is really high praise, but again, you said we're the best bourbon in the world, according to Forbes. So I can say it with a little confidence that people who like Weller really like this. And that's, again, high praise. But to me, that's the closest comp I can come up with to Never Say Die from what I've tried around the world.
Yeah, no, and now that you say that, I can totally get that. Yeah, like that is always a.
And I'm not a professional, so like I said, I think some people would say that's insane because Weller's a wheated bourbon and this is a rye bourbon. But as far as the fruity notes, the sweetness, the caramel, for some reason, it hits all those same notes, in my opinion.
I agree.
But again, I'm not a professional.
Yeah. Oh, this is super nice, though. This is really fucking good.
Thanks.
All right, so let's just jump right into it. Question one.
Sounds good.
It's the same for everybody. It's always an origin story. But how'd you get started in the whiskey business?
So one of my very good friend, Pat Madden, was at the English Derby. Or sorry, I'm mistaken. He was at the Kentucky Derby with his English friend, David Wild. Okay, and this is relevant. So they're two of my co-founders. They're sitting at the Derby in 2015, drinking a mint julep, which we'll get into in a minute. And Pat's telling David the story of this horse named Never Say Die, whose life was saved on his farm at birth from a shot of whiskey. The horse was dying, wasn't breathing. They throw some whiskey down the horse's throat and it snaps out of it, and the horse lives. 3 years later, that same horse wins the English Derby, the biggest horse race in the world at the time, in front of 250,000 people. And
Never Say Die began to draw away from Darius on the rails. Yes, this is where the derbies are usually won or lost. And now, with Never Say Die looking a clear winner, Arabian Night makes a bid for glory. He's overhauling Darius with every stride, but he can't get up to Never Say Die, who maintains his two-length lead right to the finish. A grand win from Arabian Night and Darius by this 33-1 long shot.
And they named, obviously his name was Never Say Die. He was named that the day after his life was saved. So Pat tells David the story, and David's like, wait, I'm going to do my British accent now, but he's like, by God, we should make a bourbon called Never Say Die. And so Pat and David, the next day, they wake up and they're like, maybe we should do that. And they call, and Pat's my friend. I'm in the farming business. Like, we own a bunch of farmland around, and we rent to farms to people who grow corn and wheat for a lot of the bourbon distilleries in Kentucky. So that's where I'm calling you from. I'm here in Lexington. So Pat calls me. He's like, Brian, you're the bourbon guy. Let me tell you the story about me and my partner over in England, over at the Derby, and we want to make a whiskey and make a tribute to a horse that won this big race in England. I'm like, all right, whatever. And the more we talked about it, the more we fell in love with the idea of making Never Say Die bourbon. And in that champion underdog story, we figured let's give it a shot. So there's more to the story too. I can tell you a little bit more about it if you want to hear the rock star portion of it.
Freaking amazing. So yeah, please, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah, the story's better than the whiskey. It's awesome. So, and we had nothing to do with the story except for we're celebrating it. We're trying to come up with a brand that makes people know this story. So that horse that won that magical race over in England, it was the English Derby. Queen Elizabeth was there in her box with the favorite.
Meanwhile, the Prime Minister joined the royal family, eagerly waiting for the thrill of the start.
So the Queen that just passed away last year, but this was when she was in her 20s in 1954. And Winston Churchill's in her box with her, and they think they're going to win the race. And lo and behold, this 33-1 long shot from America. No horse from America had won that race in 70 years. And this 33-1 long shot's in the race. And so this woman in Liverpool, meanwhile, was down on her luck. Her son wants to start a band and he can't get any money or any instruments and whatnot. So she's like, you know what? Never say die. I'm down on my luck. I'm going to pawn my jewelry. I love the name of that horse. I'm going to bet it all at 33 to 1 odds and see if I can get lucky. And sure enough, the horse wins. Miracle. And she goes and buys this old Victorian home in Liverpool and opens up called the Casbah Coffee Club. It's in the basement of this old Victorian house down in downtown Liverpool. Tells her son, Peter Best, so her name was Mona Best, tells her son, Peter, hey, you and your friends can, now you can start your band and headline this club. And his friends were Paul McCartney and John Lennon. And Peter Best was the first drummer for the Quarrymen. That was what their name was back then. And then they went on to kick him out of the band, sadly, and they grabbed Ringo instead. And the rest is history. So that's the craziest part of the story. And it's been said that if it weren't for Never Say Die, the horse, there may never have been the Beatles. So here we are trying to just bring the world that story yet again, 70 years later. And maybe it's almost 80 years. No. But yeah, 70 years later.
No, I think that's so fucking awesome because, again, like there's people, like, oh, we found Granddad's, like, recipe in his shoe and they'll go do the marketing spin. But, like, I love...
right.
I love the whole idea because, again, it was just, two, like, friends sitting together, drinking and being, like... having that drunken idea of like, hey, we should make a fucking whiskey because we've all had that conversation at the pub, somewhere in our life, being like, how hard could it be? It's we're gonna make some whiskey, and you're like, yeah, no problem. But like, I love when like that story actually comes out. So, and then again with the whole like the story of Never Say Die, like you said, the story is just as good as the whiskey. So I'm going to correct you on there because that's really fucking good. But that's just so awesome. So then can we taste the side-by-side real quick then?
Yes, please. Because that story was so wild to us that we were like, we have to make a tribute to that story in every way possible. So it needs to be born in America, shipped over the ocean for greatness over in England, just like the horse. So we had this, we talked about for a minute, like making a distillery over in England and trying to do a bourbon style distillation over in England. But then we're like, why would we do that? We're in the heart of whiskey country here in Kentucky. We make really darn good whiskey. We're good friends with the guys down at Danville who are like genius distillers. They know we can make it perfect here, ship it in the barrel over to England. And so really hardly at all did we consider like how much that was going to affect the difference in the flavor profiles and everything like that. We more just thought of it like part of the business plan. Like, let's get the barrels over there, age it in England. We thought that would make the difference. And maybe it has, I don't know, but I'd love you to try the unocean aged. I think it's quite a bit different. And it's the same mash bill. It's the same whiskey. It's kind of, and it's really good too. Don't get me wrong. But for me, it doesn't have the same fruity smoothness. I
was going to say, it feels very much like it doesn't quite have that fruit bomb that the first one had. Like, so, I mean, it's kind of there, but I get a little bit more of the spice. I get a little bit more. But fuck, yeah, that's still really damn good. That is, but no, you're right. You lose the fruit. It comes a little bit way more spicier. So like this kind of just becomes a little bit more of that almost Christmassy kind of like cake or like a spicy gingerbread cookie, if you will.
But you're right about that. Like the alcohol forwardness that we're getting out of the unocean aged is just completely absent in the once it went over the ocean for some reason. Like it doesn't taste like that sharp alcohol flavor anymore for some reason. I don't know. And so it's while you enjoy, it's been quite an ordeal to try to figure out how to get whiskey barrels over to England and then where to store them in England. Because here in Kentucky, it's pretty easy to find a bonded warehouse where you can store whiskey barrels, but over in England, they don't really have that. So we had to find a partner distiller over there, and we found Max at White Peak Distillery. It's up in North Peak District. It's like north of Nottingham and Sheffield. So it's not quite as north as Manchester geographically, but they are a single malt producer, and they were actually buying, before they met us, they were buying barrels from other distilleries here, empty barrels, because as you know, in the UK, they tend to use spent bourbon barrels to age their whiskey in. So we've been a magical partnership because he's happy to store our barrels for us, dumps them. He actually is our bottler as well. And then he gets the empty barrels, which are fresh, wet barrels, like ready to dump his whiskey into. And there's no doubt he gets better whiskey out of it because of that, rather than taking broken down barrels from some random distillery and reforming them and building them back up again and filling them. It's
right.
It's an easy process.
Yeah, win-win for both groups, it seems.
Bingo.
Do you ever think that you would go like the non-ocean aged and just release the...
I can tell you like that. That's good. I'm happy you like it. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, possibly. That'd be interesting. We call the one that you're drinking, on the back of the label, it says the American Colt Edition at the bottom of it. And that's because it came back over to America and it's bottled here in the US. Or sorry, it's bottled in England, but it's labeled for the USA consumption. I guess we could always come up with a different release and just say this is Never Say Die, like I don't know, yearling or something edition, or I don't know. That wouldn't make sense though, because it's way more than 1 year old.
Like this just is so. There's something really nice about this that just kind of.
Well, then, all right, then we're gonna have to. You get to try the rye in a little bit. You're gonna have to reserve judgment, because I think when it comes to that, you're gonna be like, all right, that's the rye I want in that Manhattan. And you probably mixed your Manhattan with the bourbon, but then we'll try the rye and you'll be like, okay, there's the spice I was looking for.
I might have to double fist it and make a quick one real quick. But again, I think, so then again, so other than, just your two partners calling up, like, cause again, like you said, you were big into the agricultural scene. Like, so then how did you become part, like, did you guys just like form, because there's four of you, correct? Four co-founders?
There's actually seven. So quickly, the story is Pat and David, who were at the Derby together, each called their partners or friends in their, so David called Martha Dalton and Fran O'Leary over in England, who are his partners in his lobbying firm over in England, and said, hey, would you help me do this over on the UK side? And Pat called me, who was a good friend of his, who I'm an entrepreneur. He knew I would have the energy and the contacts to make this thing go, because Pat's a real estate developer. He's not nearly as well-versed in bourbon as I am. So there's five. And then I said, well, I've got two friends who are starting in a world-class distillery down in Danville. They're mad scientists, geniuses, and let's get them on board. And they were happy to do it. So that makes seven. And it's a good team of people that are all different focuses, but we all get along incredibly well. It's just been the seven of us since the beginning. And we started an LLC business just like anybody else would, and just to see where it would go. And here we are, 7 years later, and people like it.
Well, again, I mean, fucking love it. It's just two friends sitting, had a conversation, and then 7 years later, world's best whiskey, and it's
right.
It's that's
you got any
awesome.
ideas, Tim? We're two friends.
Yeah,
we're two friends sitting here drinking whiskey. Like, let's do it again. Start now.
All right. Question two, drink two. Right. What are we drinking?
We are drinking Never Say Die rye whiskey. Not yet available in America. It's only, sorry, you didn't get the pretty bottle.
No, that's all right.
It's been for sale in England for only a month now, maybe two. We launched it at the whiskey show in London and the Berlin Bar Convent Berlin. So I was over there for that, and our team launched it over in England about a month and a half ago. So I'm drinking it out of a UK tax stamp. This is like labeled for sale here in the UK. I bought it off of a website over there, which if one of your listeners or viewers would like to buy one, you actually can buy them on Whiskey World or Whiskey Exchange over in England. Here in America, they'll ship it to you. I mean, it's not cheap, but this is coming out. It's coming out in America in March, April at the latest. So, So the first year we produced Never Say Die, we only made bourbon. That was in 2017. Then the following year, we figured, why don't we branch out? Like, rye is kind of on the upswing, and our distillers make really, really good rye. And so we just said, let's make that our secondary product. And we're going to always keep, Never Say Die is going to never have like 15 different products. We're going to try to only have 2 or 3. We're going to just have our standard rye, our standard small batch bourbon, and maybe a barrel strength bourbon. This rye is higher proof, so it's 105 proof. We did that because rye drinks, in my opinion, a little bit better at a higher proof. It's also going to hold up better in a cocktail. Do you want me to lead this tasting, Tim, or I think maybe there's some notes in this that will just be like, oh, okay, I caught that first myself. I think you could.
Oh, that's really nice. Wow.
And my theory is that you're going to like this one maybe better than the bourbon because it's got that more kick. It's going to hold up better in a cocktail. It's almost as smooth. It's like really close to the bourbon.
This is real nice. That spice.
So one that is knock your socks off, in my opinion. Like once someone said it to me, I'm like, I can't miss that note anymore when I drink this. And it's like a spearmint flavor. There's just something about this. This has the most minty nose and finish. It's very herbal. So again, this isn't like a 95% rye. Like if you've ever had Bullet rye, or there's a few other ryes that are out there that are 95% rye and 5% corn or 5% malted barley. I don't know what the 5% is, but like this one is 56% rye, 33% corn. So it's going to taste way more like a bourbon than some of the ryes you've ever had. I mean, obviously it's still a rye whiskey. It's the majority is rye. It's significantly different, but you get that corn, that sweetness from the corn, which is really nice.
Yeah, that is very nice. Yep, the herbaceousness of this, and that spearmint at the end. That is just you are correct, sir. I do actually want to put this in a Manhattan. So this is
yeah. We kind of blew it, huh? We already pre-mixed our drink for later with the bourbon in the Manhattan, but whatever. You got all the ingredients.
But again, I appreciate the sample. So again, thank you for that. But now I'm going to have to hide this from myself. So what happens is I'm going to put this way back in my liquor shelf, because then if I want it, that means I really have to dig for it to get it. So this is it's so fucking good that I'm going to have to hide it from myself. So
that's a good trick.
Because if you want it, you're going to have to really, really go for it.
Well, you're in the first you're in the first 5 people in America to try Never Say Die rye. So congratulations. Very few people. Yeah. I don't even think my co-founder, Pat Madden, has tried it. So, and maybe he has, but I'm not sure.
Wow. I am honored, and that is just fucking awesome. So, all right. So question 2. I don't want to know about the process of actually making your spirit, or why did you guys decide on the process of how your spirit is aged, and why the UK? Like, again, there's a lot of, places that are doing, ship or barrel aged kind of stuff, but then you guys, changed up the whole game by landing in the UK and then having it over there for a year and then bottled and shipped back. So why UK?
Well, yeah. So a couple reasons. One, if you've been to a liquor store in America lately, it's kind of overwhelming, the bourbon aisle. What used to be 15, 30 offerings, maybe even 100 is now just, it seems like it goes on and on and on. And so we were mildly scared. I'm not going to lie. Like, we were a little scared of the US market, where how do you stand out? And then beyond that, with our ties to England, we were like, well, people don't drink a ton of bourbon in England, but why couldn't we change that? Like, why couldn't we be the bourbon that gets English people crazy about bourbon? Kind of like Maker's Mark did for the US, like higher end bourbon market in the US. It could happen. And so, so we launched it a year ago over in England, and it's been for sale over there. Just our barrel strength was the only thing that was for sale from the launch, which was in October 22. And then, we've had some massive fans over there that really, truly love it. And they've acquired each barrel pick, or because it's a single barrel. our barrel strength over there. And our fans love us. The British Bourbon Society actually got to pick our first barrel. We gave them that honor. So I don't even have a bottle of barrel number 1. They do, which is kind of cool. So we have some big fans over in England. What we didn't realize is that there's just not that many. I mean, like for every fan in England that goes into a liquor store looking for bourbon, there's probably 50 like that in Kentucky. I mean, it's crazy, the difference. So, we knew we had to evolve into Kentucky at some point, but we really wanted England to be our like primary first market. And it's still our holy grail. Like we really want to be the bourbon of England and when someone goes to get a whiskey, and here's another thing. And they have Scotch, but that comes from Scotland, and they have Irish whiskey, but that comes from Ireland. There is also English single malt whiskey, so don't get me wrong, but they do not have an English bourbon of any kind, and so, of course. And so really, we just want to be the whiskey of England. Like that, we think that'd be really cool, but hope that the whole UK loves us.
That's awesome. Because again, I was going to follow up off of that is how do you piss off the cork dorks when you say that you're an English bourbon? Because like, do you get, again, you guys aren't cutting any steps. You're actually following the rules of making bourbon. But do you piss off the cork dorks by, saying that you're an English bourbon?
We try to say England's favorite bourbon because it's still a Kentucky bourbon. I mean, it absolutely is. We don't want to give full ownership to England because that kind of makes America probably mad. The people that set the rules that it should be an American product, and it is. It's an American product. Right. But as far as like traditionalism and making bourbon and like authenticity, I think we hit both on the head because it's in the same barrel from the time that we produce it without adding any staves or doing any double barrel finishes or even anything. The only thing that we do that's not fully traditional in the process is just moving the barrels from one country to the other. I minimize that. It's a big deal, but it doesn't change. It doesn't leave the barrel and it doesn't get finished with anything. It literally, when the bottling time comes, they just dump that same original barrel into a vatting tank and off you go.
It is true bourbon. It's American made, but yeah, like the idea of, when you say like England's favorite bourbon, like people's, you get the guy, it can't be made in England because they're called bourbon, or, you just get the guys that are so nerdy and so hung up on the terminology of the words.
Yeah. It's really interesting you bring that up because that same Forbes article that essentially made our brand famous, more famous, I should say, dug into that quite a bit. That writer, and he said, "Is this a bourbon?" And his conclusion was, yes, absolutely. And sure, you could have a full traditionalist like do the nerdy voice and say, "Well, it's not really a bourbon." I know a bourbon. This isn't one.
Yeah, right.
So,
but again,
but whatever. It's all subjective. Sorry, bourbon nerds. This is really good, so you should try it.
Agreed. Yeah, and again, everything is done in Kentucky, barreled in Kentucky, put on a ship, sailed over to the UK, spent a year in the UK, bottled, and then sent back, or stayed in the UK for sales. But again,
there's Kentucky bourbon that's ages here for 2 years. That's the minimum, and then on the first day after its 2-year birthday, it becomes bourbon. Ours is here for 5-6 years. I mean, what's more of a bourbon than that, right?
Right. No, and it's absolutely amazing. What's the crest on the bottle? You have a cool shield or crest. What is that question on the top of the bottle?
I'm glad you asked. So we, when we made this brand, we didn't have any idea what we wanted to look like. In fact, I have in my old-fashioned glass, like the first glasses we had made. You probably can't even see it, but it just has NSD with a horse. We had no concept of what we wanted our brand, because we just knew it's got to be a horse and it's going to be called Never Say Die. So we hired the world's best spirits branding company, Stranger & Stranger. They have an office in London. They have an office in New York. We used the London office because we wanted this to be very distinctly British. And they came up with that. So they came up with our whole look, our whole bottle. If you notice, this is like, it almost looks like a news headline. That was their inspiration of, Never Say Die wins the English Derby in 1954. There's a lot of nuance to the bottle, but the crest has 4. I'm going to hold this up. It's on your hat, but I'm going to hold this up for your audience. Yep. There you go. So up on this side at the top is the English flag. Okay.
Okay.
So that's just like a tribute to England. On the other right here is some waves. It looks like water, and that has 2 meanings. One is that it took an ocean trip over to England, but it also is the limestone water that makes American whiskey and Kentucky bourbon so darn good. And then there's a horseshoe down here, right? And that's obvious.
Okay.
That's a tribute to Never Say Die. And then there's Fields of Grain, and that's just some lines. It's a tribute to the American grain that goes into this mash. So it's just kind of our brand crest. We use it quite a bit, and it's on your hat, and it's on the glass bottle, and it's on the cap. And then we also have a custom bottle, which is kind of cool. It has the horseshoe on the bottom that says NSD. If you notice that on your bottle, so it wasn't cheap to do any of this stuff, Tim. I'm not gonna lie. There you go.
That's a
boom,
massive custom bottle undertaking. So yeah, I totally. That's.
We wanted it to be a world class whiskey, or like we didn't cut any corners. We're like, let's make this as awesome as we possibly can. So here we are. Can I do a quick plug? Because
Please.
You know how American distribution works. It's almost impossible to get into 50 states right away, you know? Never Say Die is available in Kentucky all over. I mean, there's over 100 retail stores that have, and bars and restaurants in Kentucky, but I mean, not everybody who watches your shows is in Kentucky. Clearly not. Right. We actually work with Sealbox, which is an online website for high-end whiskeys and bourbons especially. And they can ship to 39 states. Our small batch bourbon is for sale on that website right now, and I believe it's in stock. It goes in and out of stock, but we have enough stock for a little while, at least to get us into the middle of January, and then we won't have anything until March. Our next shipping container comes in March. Okay. And on that same site, you can actually click on the rye product. It has its own page, and you click on notify me when it comes in, and you'll be one of the first people to get the rye, which would be these super duper low serial numbers on the bottom. I mean, you might get bottle number 5. I mean, who knows?
Nice.
If you contact Sealbox. So, or at least in the first few thousand, no doubt.
The rye is a must. I'm going to have to say that is going to have to. That's going to have to be on my shelf. So I'm going to need one to stock and one to rock, as the kids say. So I'm going to have one to tuck away and one as a drinker, because that is amazing. All right, so on to question 3.
I'm ready. I got mine right here. I'm good to go.
What are we drinking?
I've got a Kentucky authentic mint julep. I actually have mine in a Kentucky Derby glass.
Very nice.
Let's see yours. Nice. You got the muddy. Yeah. If you've ever been to have you ever been to the Derby, Tim?
I have not.
No. So
no.
Next, if you ever go, this is the glass that they fill it in, and it's got all the listed names of all the Derby winners, and so you get this with your drink, and they're souvenir glasses. So this one's from 2001. I save them.
Oh wow!
So anyway, this is the drink of the Kentucky Derby. Cheers! Yeah. So it is a good drink. They go down exceptionally well in May in Louisville at the Derby, and all that sugar gets everybody all riled up for the big Derby with all the celebrities around and everything like that. So
I've had a few friends that have gone to the Derby, and they've never seen a horse race, but they have spent many times in the bar, so they don't remember seeing any horses, but they do remember drinking a lot of julep. So that is the.
Yeah, this glass is from 2001. That's when I graduated college. There's no way I saw a horse. I was in the infield that day. Yeah, which is a party. Yeah. But the cool thing about this, the reason we picked this drink, because this isn't a drink that you're going to see on a restaurant menu, but this is a drink that's so quintessential Kentucky, and also it's the origin story of Never Say Die. Pat and David were drinking this very drink when the whole idea came to mind. So,
all right. So, question 3. Can you talk to us a little bit of what's a day in the life for you? Like you said, you have 7 partners, but what's a day in the life for you at Never Say Die?
Currently, I'm just going to make it current because traditionally it was just occasionally we'd fire off an email here or there. Like there's no real like urgency with the brand when you make barrels in 2017 and you don't launch the brand till 6 or 7 years later, right? So it's just been a side project all this time. Obviously we've met together a few times. We've like all of us shared a beer at Parliament in England one time. Like
nice.
We got a picture of all 7 of us, and we were drinking beers they actually have a bar in the basement of Parliament, which is really cool. It's like, so we met some lawmakers there. They all were very excited about the fact that we were doing this brand. We've met in New York before for board meetings because that's kind of an equidistant spot, not quite equidistant, but close enough. It's easy for us to get there and England to get there. But we have a ton of Zoom calls together over the years. But recently, and Martha and I, Martha's over in England. She runs all of our operations over in England, not all, but most of our operations over in England. And I run most of our operations here in the US. And so we communicate all the time. What lately has been, since that Forbes article, Tim, is waking up early, how do we not like, hey, this is a cute little side project. It's like, oh right. Man, how do we keep up with this demand? How do we keep stocking the shelves and allow the whole country to experience this brand rather than just the small amount of bottles that we brought over here in the first place that are all selling out in Kentucky? And so that's kind of a day in the life. Is like I'm on the Zoom calls with our bottler over in England, our label producer trying to get more labels produced, like our glass producer and all of this is produced in England. So I'm waking up early because that's British time. I'm making sure I'm on the ball with all of it. I've got a whole spreadsheet of how the heck we can keep up with demand, making more whiskey this summer, all of the above, just trying to throw fuel on the fire for that, if that makes sense. Not to mention doing a lot of fun stuff like this. I'm not going to lie. Like this is what we live for. It's like helping, and thank you for having us on, telling the world our story, getting to meet fun people like you. And actually, like, I didn't know about your show. And so in preparation for this, I watched about 5 or 6 episodes of 5 Drinks or Midnight, and it's awesome. So now I'm a fan. So I appreciate
really cool. that. Thank you. Yeah, no. And that's when you're, and again, your PR team is absolutely amazing, because when they reached out, they're like, hey, would you be interested? And I'm like, fuck yeah, because the whole point is just telling stories. So, and again, whiskey brings people together. And so, like, it just, whiskey is a great thing, or just spirits in general. So, like, that idea. And I'm like, never even heard of you guys. Yes, I would love to talk to you guys, and now, fuck, you got me, you had me hooked on the first sip. You got me jonesing on the second, and then the third one, well, fuck, now I'm just a fiend. So, like, I'm going to be sitting there now just checking the website every day being, when's that rye coming? When's that rye coming? So, like, you got me, like, fully fucking hooked. So, again, really, you got a fan now. So, all right. Question 4, drink 4. What are we drinking?
All right. You got your Churchill Manhattan?
Oh.
All right. Bingo. So this cocktail, which I believe hopefully will be one of the most well-known cocktails that is exclusively Never Say Die, but served around the world. It's a brilliant cocktail that our brand ambassador named Dan Prizeman over in England came up with. And we love it because A, it's delicious, but B, it's a tribute to Winston Churchill, who watched Never Say Die win that upset race. And Churchill was famous for absolutely loving a martini, okay? But vermouth is in typical martinis, right? And when asked, this is a quote from Winston Churchill, you can look it up. When asked, how much vermouth would you like in your martini, Sir Churchill? He said, I would like to observe the vermouth from across the room while I drink my martini. He wanted nothing to do with vermouth in his martini. So this is a martini that does not include vermouth and never will. It's got sherry wine in it instead, and a chestnut liqueur, which gives it a very sweet after dinner kind of flavor to it. There's a lemon peel, some simple syrup, gum, and of course, Never Say Die bourbon or rye. This is my first one I've ever had in America. I've only had them made by Dan Prizeman over in England, but it's my favorite drink when I go to England. So let's see how it tastes here in the U.S.
It's fucking amazing. I mean, honestly, this is a fucking amazing cocktail. So that this was made by, again, sorry, your brand ambassador made this cocktail?
He did, yeah. He's been working for us for a year over in the UK. He came up with a couple drinks for us. He came up with one called the Epsom Derby, which is a spin on the mint julep that we've had earlier, but it was more using grapefruit juice instead of simple syrup, and it's quite a bit elevated. It's served up. But then he came up with this Churchill Manhattan for us this winter, I think, and we went to an event over in England, and all of us were like, "That's the star of the show. Like, that's the best cocktail you've come up with." And Dan's in the cocktail scene in England, in London, which is very competitive and inventive and awesome. Like, have you ever been to London before, Tim?
Oh yeah, very much. Yeah, there's a lot of Whiskey Wednesday places that are bars that are Whiskey Wednesday friendly in London. So yeah, we've been known to cause some trouble there. So yeah,
nice. So the cocktail scene is like intense. Yeah. So like Dan's in the world, and he takes it seriously, and made a really good tribute to Churchill and the Manhattan without the vermouth, that damn vermouth that Churchill hated. So
all right.
But this is like an after dinner. In my opinion, it's like even a little more sweet than an old fashioned. It's delicious.
All right. Well, so question 4, again, you guys were a year into the UK. You just became available to the States. What's next? Again, not looking for industry secrets or anything along those lines, but what's next for you guys?
Honestly, and this is cheesy, it's keep it simple and get it into as many hands in America as we possibly can. And that's not like trying to like make as much money as we can. It's like, let's get this story out there and get fans of Never Say Die. And then we can maybe become a little more inventive with what kind of things come out. But like, we took serious effort. Back to my theory on how like the bourbon industry is just there's so much of it. Yep. We wanted our product line to be super simple and just elegantly perfect. Like, let's make one kick-ass rye that's the right proof, 105. We think it's the right proof. 5. The number 5 is the number that Never Say Die won in that race. So we try to attribute number 5 a lot. So we use 105 proof for the rye, 95 for the small batch, but it just works out great because they're really good proofs for those two drinks. I think we're going to keep it simple, to be honest, and try to get into full distribution in the USA and ramp up. In the future, I think we really want to have some sort of Kentucky and England experience. And I don't know if that's owning our own distillery, like active distillery, or if it's just a place where people can come ride a horse and see the thoroughbreds and enjoy the story, immerse themselves in the Never Say Die story in both places. I don't know. But having that full experience would be really great. In the meantime, we're just trying to deliver product and the story to as many people as we can. And then just keep plowing whatever profits we make off of it, plow it back into making more barrels and sell it to, share it with more people. I mean, none of us are going to put $1 in our pocket for a long, long time because we just want to just get this story out there. It's so cool.
Again, it just comes down to being like how awesome this brand truly is. Because, like you said, it's friends that started. We're going to do this. None of us are going to make some money. We just want to keep making something awesome. And I think that is just a true testament that like you're here for a long time. You believe in your brand and you want to create something really fucking cool. And I think that bottom line, out of anybody that takes anything away, that's a big thing to say, I think, in the spirits world nowadays, is just because we have so many people coming in and trying to just, they'll make a spirit and just hope that they can sell it for like $3 billion to one of the big wigs. And I think that, it's just, it says a lot about, true people that believe in what they want to do. So I think that's fucking awesome. So thanks. Cheers to you on that one.
Thanks. Cheers. That's awesome. Thanks.
Question 5, drink 5, our last drink of the night. Last question. What are we drinking?
Well, it's cliche and corny, but I just love an old fashioned. It's like my favorite whiskey drink. So
again, if we need to be corny and cliche, then so be it.
Man, there's some good ones in Kentucky. I feel spoiled. I go to bars and I'm like, whoa. I mean, there's some really, really good old fashions in Kentucky. But what we're drinking, and I'm sure there are in Brooklyn too, I have to imagine. So in my opinion, old fashioned is bourbon. The orange peel is vital. Simple syrup or sometimes maple syrup I like. And, and sometimes I coat the ice in the maple syrup before I dump the whiskey in. There's different ways to do it. But I like that. And then obviously Angostura bitters are my favorite. Just again, back to the basics. I mean, there's some really good bitters and unique bitters out there. But if there's a bottle of Angostura, I'm always very happy with that. So, and I'm heavy-handed on that.
Cheers.
Cheers to you. And I actually put a Luxardo cherry in the bottom of mine because I kind of like the cherry at the end.
Now I know we're going to be good friends because I love a cherry as well. So like that is, now I know that we're best friends for life. So like that's, but your recipe didn't call for it. So I didn't put it in because I wanted to drink like you did. But like,
damn it. I'm sorry.
But otherwise, I love a good cherry in my old fashioned.
I was just going to say, what if it's one of those like cherries with like the stem, like those, like a Shirley Temple cherry? You're down with those too? You know,
look, low formaldehyde isn't going to kill you. You're good. Like, honestly, like, well, again, not question 5, but what were you drinking before Never Say Die? Like, what was your go-to spirit? Like, what is your flavor profile when you're out drinking? Let's just say, again, you're out someplace and, they don't have Never Say Die. So what kind of spirits are you going for?
Great call. Great question. So like readily available, I used to drink Angel's Envy, which that was just like one of the first premium bourbons I ever tried where I was like, that's really interesting. That's different. And I always liked that one. And I love a good rye whiskey in my old fashioned. So Wilderness Trail makes a rye whiskey that I really like. And then Woodford Reserve, like even their bourbon or their rye, always is good in a cocktail. Like if there's something like, even if I'm at like a freaking Shoney's or something, like a crappy little restaurant, maybe not Shoney's, I don't know if they have a liquor license, but you know what I'm saying? Like in the middle of Wisconsin, in the middle of Styx, who knows? They're going to probably have Woodford, and it's going to probably make a good old fashioned.
Okay.
How about you, Tim? What's your go-to?
Yeah, like I'm a big rye guy. So like, again, like I've been really into Old Overholt has always just been my go-to rye. Like that has just been, my grandfather drank that. That's what, we drank at the bar. Like that was always, he owned a bar. So like, yeah, that was always the thing of like, that's what you would sit there and drink. Lately, it's been Dad's Hat bourbon rye out of Pennsylvania. Unfortunately, a lot of those. And then, after like 3 or 4 of those, you don't really remember the rest of the night. So it's totally like their proof is super high and just there. And again, I was going to save this to the end, but again, if you're ever in New York City, I would love to show you around. We have some great places that makes old fashions. Kristen Murray from the Spaniard, I still to this day say that she makes the best old fashioned in the world because it is consistent. Her first one to the 8th one, they all taste the same. And again, she says it's built with love. So like, it's just, she makes one of the best old fashions for me. So I would love to show you around New York City. So if you're ever in New York, look me up because I'll be happy to show you. And same when I'm down in Kentucky, you're going to be my new phone call. So we're gonna, we love a cherry in our old fashioned. We're best friends, so now we need to drink together more. So
that sounds good. Come on down to Kentucky anytime. So, but no, that'd be great. I already told you that like New York is like our spot where we have meetings. So yeah, we might take you up on this sooner than you think.
No, please. Again, if all 7 of you are in New York, like that's just, and especially if someone could bring me over some rye even before March, that'd be fucking amazing. So like, I'd be very happy. So like that You let me know when you guys are in town. I would love that. So, all right. So question 5 comes down to the Whiskey Wednesday coin. You can flip it, you can spin it, you can do whatever you want. You don't have to answer. The coin will give us the answer. So it's totally up to you if you want to answer. But your whole story and the world-changing moments that happened after that story all came down to you gave a horse a shot of whiskey. So, can a shot of Never Say Die change the world?
Well, I think I know the answer. And if this is someone's first time ever watching this show, I got this coin in the mail from Tim, and my son was with me when I opened it. And I was like, you got to read this coin. And it says, fuck yeah, and fuck no. So what coin flip ever would you have other than using this coin from now on? Right?
Right, exactly.
So maybe I'll spin it because
right.
I think the answer is fuck yeah. A shot of whiskey can change the world. But I mean, let's see what the coin says, right?
The coin better say fuck yeah.
If it doesn't, I'll probably lie to you. All right, here we go. It did say fuck yeah. No joke. I swear.
Perfect. Yes.
See, it knows. It's meant to be. Tim, can I tell you this story real quick? Like how we launched Never Say Die Small Batch? Okay.
Yeah.
So we called the Epsom Derby, which is still one of the biggest horse races in England. It's their version of the Kentucky Derby, I guess. And we were like, we want to launch our whiskey over here in England. Could we set up a bar and let people have it? And they're like, well, you're not allowed to bring whiskey into the end of the race, you know? And we're like, yeah, but can we tell you our story? This is kind of cool. Like this happened 70 years ago. We waited 7 years for this. And they're like, you know what? Okay. They let us bring 2 double-decker buses, 2 open-top double-decker British-style vintage buses into the infield. We parked at the finish line. And then in between those, they gave us 3 parking spots. These are like coveted parking spots. And it's at a proper party and everyone's all dressed up. And they gave us 2 buses and a spot in the middle where we could sit up the Never Say Die bar. Okay. And we were just like drinking whiskey all day long. Like actually saw the big race. It was so cool. I mean, it was like just like a dream to launch our brand in that manner. So Caroline Madden came over to England with us. And she's just out of college, and she's got that Never Say Die attitude. And so we were with her not that long ago, and she's here back in Lexington, and we're having some cocktails one night. She's like, Dad, we're having a horse auction tomorrow. Do you think I could go give a shot of Never Say Die to one of those horses and like right before it gets auctioned off and see if it's like a lucky thing? And Pat's like, that is a horrible idea. Don't you dare do that. And like a proper 20-year-old daughter, she still went and did it after all. So I'm sure that horse is going to change the world.
There we go.
Thanks to Caroline Madden. She's not scared of anything. And neither are we. So, yeah. Fuck yeah.
Brian, that's 5 drinks down. 5 questions answered. Thank you so much for joining us. Honestly and truly, I hope we get to drink together very, very soon. Please let me know the next time the group is in New York, or if you're in New York, I'd love to show you around. I'm hitting you up when we're in Kentucky. Everybody, check out Never Say Die, because honestly, I had no idea what it was about, and now I'm obsessed. So, and that's no bullshit, because I would lie, like this could lie to you, but it's fucking amazing bourbon and rye. The rye is fucking killer. So cheers to you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Tim. We're honored that you let us be on your show. So we're fans as well. And thank you so much. I'll keep watching for many, many years to come. So cheers.